Hi and welcome to our first ever webinar for Christian Conference Trust. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Gemma. I'm the sales manager here at Christian Conference Trust. I've been with Christian Conference Trust now for 2 years and joined with over 15 years experience in hospitality, sales and events. Today we have a very special guest with us. Stephen, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Gemma. I'm Dr. Steven Dumbleton. I'm a marketing director at Seraph Agency, which is a purpose-driven integrated marketing agency. And I'm also a lecturer at Falmouth University, where I lecture MA courses in marketing.
Thank you. So today myself and Steve are going to talk you through 4 simple hacks in event marketing. We're also going to have a Q&A session at the end of the webinar, so please stick around and ask as many questions as you like in the chat box, and at the end of the session we will try and answer as many questions as we can. For those that we don't get to answer, we will also share my details and Steve's contact details at the end of the webinar for you to get in contact with us directly if you have any further questions. So Steve, thank you for being here with us today. So let's talk about promoting your event. So before your event's even started, what marketing do people need to consider about communicating with their attendees?
Thanks for having me firstly, Gemma. It's so great to be here at Highley. It's absolutely beautiful. This goes for all marketing, really, not just event marketing. But the first thing in every plan to consider is your audience. Who your audience is and where your audience spends most of their time.
Yeah.
Now, when we say where they spend most of their time, I'm not talking about at home and at work. I'm talking about what marketing channels they are most active in. Now, if you are a smaller group, say, who are booking an event, a church group, something like that, the answer to that question might be fairly straightforward.
Yeah.
How are you going to contact those people? It's probably going to be face-to-face when you next see them. But for other organisations, the picture can be a little bit more complex, with the audience distributed across a whole host of different channels.
Yeah.
Now, we have a tendency in life to go for the easy options, I suppose. And that is not always the best option to go for. So by an easy option, I mean you might instantly think, right, I've got an event coming up. Where am I going to promote this? I'm going to get on social media.
Yeah.
And you'll get on social media and the expectation will be, oh, the audience will follow. But your audience might not actually be on social media. For starters, there's loads of different social channels that they could be on. So you might be spending all of your time on Facebook, whereas you should be putting more time into TikTok or LinkedIn, say.
Yeah.
But there are other channels that you should consider as well. Classic one we go for is email lists, but one that I am becoming increasingly fond of due to the ever changing digital landscape is to go for some more of the classic techniques that we have. Are you better off just picking up the phone and speaking to people?
Yeah.
Is it better to print something and send someone something in the post and then reach out?
Yeah.
So the first thing to go for is, who is your audience and where are they?
Yeah, definitely. No, that's brilliant. Thanks, Steve. And obviously, you've spoke around that being sort of the communicating with them and using those different methods. So obviously, you really want to create a buzz around an event and getting those numbers up for attendees of your event. Sort of how would you go around when you're doing this marketing, whether it be through phone or email or socials? Like, how do you get this real excitement going about your event and pushing those people to be like, I can't miss this, I want to be there?
That's a really good question, and I know it's something that everyone will consider when they're planning their event. In the marketing industry, we've been talking about this idea of authenticity for quite a long time, and a number of organisations have used authenticity to talk about issues such as sustainability and the brand very much being who the brand says it is. For an event to be authentic, you have to consider the people that are actually coming to the event. So it might be the case that some people, when promoting their event, concentrate very much on talking about it from the perspective of the organizer, from the organizer needing people to come to an event at a certain time, to do these actions, so on and so on and so on. Actually put yourself in the shoes of the person that's coming to your event and think about what it is they are trying to get from that.
Yes, yeah.
So they're probably trying to have some form of emotional experience. They probably want to come to an event to foster a sense of community, say, as an example. So if you put yourself in their shoes, you can start to think a little bit more how they think, and you can start to create content around that. But even better than putting yourself into their shoes is to involve them from the outset. So there's nothing more authentic than actually getting an event attendee to help you with your marketing. So you can talk to people, find out what their hopes and dreams and aspirations are for attending your event, and you can build your plan around that to try and foster that sense of excitement, but go that one step further, and you can actually take videos of the people that are coming to the event. You can do case studies on them. You can get them to tell their stories. Make it about the people attending the event and not about the people organising it.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's a fantastic piece of advice. Thank you, Steve. Okay, so I think the first and biggest question that we're going to get are, what are values and aims?
It's a very good question. And a lot of organisations will have a set number of values that they already have. And this kind of goes back to what I was saying about authenticity earlier on in our conversation. Being authentic to those values you have set. So I have been familiar with Christian Conference Trust for a while now, and one of the values that I know that this organisation has is this kind of the love of bringing people together, to network, to meet, to further their own life experience, and that value, from what I have seen, really has been present in everything the organisation has done. I notice on my side here you've got the Highly 100 book.
And it definitely, for us, sort of that Highly 100, we held a Highly 100 event, and we invited sort of 100 Christian leaders on site, and the aim and values of that was just for us to get across, like what you say, that we wanted to provide that fellowship, we wanted to bring people together, we wanted to tell our story of us as a Christian organisation, of supporting those Christian groups for 100 years and the ethos that's behind that. And I think that really flowed through our event, and even during dinner time, just seeing those connections being built and relationships being had, and that support and advice that was given as well throughout those Christian leaders. It was very special, and I think that really is core in bringing that across and pushing that through in all your communications. So
see, that's amazing, and that's a very clear value, and that's a wonderful example of how you can bring that value to the event. So my advice for anyone listening into this would be to have that sort of clear value set as to what you want, not just to achieve at the event, but kind of that how you want to achieve it. So then the aim becomes almost like the way to evaluate it. So for your Highly 100 event, I suppose the aim there was to bring people together and to see if the relationships were fostered, and that people were sort of forming a community. And the great thing with that, probably one of the easiest ways to evaluate whether or not that happened, was to be at the event and see people talking, see people having conversations.
Oh yeah, 100%. And there was actually, during when I was sat at dinner with people either side of me that actually was telling someone about a new project they're working on, and their response was, how do I get involved? And that in that moment I was like, wow, we've really took on that value, and that was really like, yes, that's been achieved. That's really what we was here for. What we wanted to make happen was that bond and that fellowship and that bringing together of the Christian group. So yeah, it's very valuable.
So that's wonderful, and all good events have the clear value and the clear aims to them. sometimes, yeah, you do just want to get together. I do understand that there are events like that, but also there are events with very clear values and aims, and if you set them early from the beginning, you have an idea of where you need to go.
Yeah, and very much so, I think, with a lot of our youth conferences and things like that, developing their youth leaders and having that messaging going across, I think, is so important. And we see that a lot in the conferences that we hold, that they have this clear messaging, and seeing those people grow within 2 days, 3-day residential, that they come in quite shy, and by the time they leave, they've just had this mentorship and everything that's gone on during their time at Christian Conference Trust. They've met other like-minded groups, and they've just come away with this really broad-minded view on what they've sort of been here for, and gained more from it than what they even expected their basic values and aims were going to be. So
that's brilliant. And from a marketing perspective, the reason why this is important to set these early on is because not only do they influence the program of the event, but they should influence everything that gets created from a marketing perspective.
Yeah.
So, for example, I mean, just taking the Highly 100 book here, it's just a simple, nice picture book which gives some details of what happened at the event, some images of the event and things like that, and that really demonstrates the value of bringing people closer together. But if you have a set aim of the event or value of the event, there's no reason why you can't be really obvious with it. So on every slide at the bottom, you can put, this is what we want to get out of this session, for example. Anything that you give people as they come to the event, so you might have a leaflet printed or something like that. You can actually tell people what they are going to expect to take away. Any communication before the event, you can tell them what they should expect to do and what they should expect to get from it. And that really helps that idea behind people coming to an event to get an authentic experience. It lets them know why they should be coming.
Yeah, and I think a key point during events and the values and aims is how from a marketing perspective, do you encourage that communication of your delegates and your guests while they're there? Because you want that interaction, we can see things going on, and as event organisers, you can push out there, here's my aims and here's my value. But how do you get them to interact back into it and communicate with each other and you as an event organiser?
It's very interesting, because we often think that you just get people into one location together physically, then there might just be communication, there might be interaction. But actually, a lot of people come into these, come into every event with perhaps an element of nerves or things like that they might have, so it might not immediately happen. But if people know what is perhaps expected of them, that helps for them to know what they are coming into. There's all sorts of tips out there. I've even seen some on the Christian Conference Trust website. There's a few guides that you can download on how to run certain sessions, and I've seen some blogs for things like that. So from that event organisation perspective, there's a lot of things that you can do. But from a marketing perspective, there's a couple of really good tips that I've seen work fantastically. So if we continue down this authenticity route, I know I'm going back to that word again, I've said it a few times, I'm going to keep saying it. If we keep going back to that authenticity route, it places the event attendees at the centre of everything that is going on. And that puts people in the right mindset to know that what they are about to do is going to be friendly. They're going to be welcomed, and they are in a place where they can interact with other people. You can take that even further. So one thing that I love to do at an event is encourage a social media takeover. So you could be running an event, and you could get a group of volunteers perhaps to take it in turns to run the social media accounts of your organisation, or maybe you have your own event specific social media account. So you can get volunteers who are actually attendees, who haven't got anything to do with the organisation of the event, to run them. And then suddenly that's a really highly authentic voice telling a truthful story about their experiences at the event. And that is more approachable, perhaps, than content that comes from an organiser. So involving the attendees as much as possible at every step of the way will help encourage people to interact.
Yeah, brilliant, thank you. So, as you know, as a Christian organisation, charity ourselves, a lot of organisations that we work with are churches, Christian organisations and charities. So, very much we're working within a budget. As an organisation, we do have bursary fund.
That's interesting.
So we support different groups to be able to bring away, for example, families within their church that need that financial support to be able to come away, and the stories that we heard back from that are just fabulous as well, of they're getting this break away from everyday life and just able to come away with their church and spend some much needed time together and have a break. So I think from our side and from an event planner, I'd be looking at budget wise, how can I get my delegates there? How can I make sure that it's cost efficient? And I think another great thing is, from a venue sort of perspective, looking for that all-inclusive venue, so that making sure that everything's included. But when you're sort of, what would your advice be from a marketing perspective to hit within that budget?
It's really important, this, isn't it? Because we're talking about budgets with marketing. Often with some organisations, it's just to save cost for the sake of saving cost. But in this instance, we're talking about reducing the budget of marketing spend to enable more people to come away and get the experience.
Yeah.
So it is an incredibly important thing, and that's why there are some of the best things that you could do cost only time, essentially. Yeah. So ensure that the first things you try and leverage if you're on a budget are the things that cost time. So social media is often something which we jump to because it's free. I'm using quotation marks here because obviously you give it lots of data and things like that. But it is one of those things, one of those marketing activities that can be relatively low cost. Now, if you lean into the authenticity angle that I've kind of been pushing, of getting event attendees and people who are potentially attending the events to help out with these things, it's spreading the time cost.
Yes.
And that's the most important thing for low budgets. Isn't, I'm going to have to do so much stuff myself. It's how do I spread the time cost across as many people as possible to make this as effective as it could be. Yeah. So that's when I say involving people early on who are going to come to the event and finding out what their skills are. Yeah. Finding out what they can do, what they enjoy doing. So there might be someone who loves taking photos as a hobby, for example. And there might be someone else who has a camera but doesn't like taking photos. We can pop these two people together and then suddenly you can have professional quality photography at a cost of time, not at a cost of I need to hire and pay for a photographer to come or a videographer. So consider all of the free channels. Consider which of those would be the most effective channels to use, where your audience is spending most of their time, and then go for those ones. So for example, if it is picking up the phone and speaking to people is the most effective way to encourage them to come to an event. Organise a group of people together who can take, say, a handful of different phone numbers to call those respective people and encourage them to come. So you're spreading the time cost across people who you can trust, but also who are going to bring that authentic voice to the event that you're putting on.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. Thanks, Steve. So I think as an event organiser, after the event, you almost feel that sigh of relief that, it's over and it's gone really well. But I think that's really the beginning of your next event and how you start to really start the circle again of creating that buzz and starting to get people's interest. So from a marketing perspective, how do you leverage and start to almost create this event legacy? So
firstly, hopefully, you did set the aims and values. So hopefully that's what you set, because that's the first thing we start with when it comes to marketing an event legacy, is the aims of the event and the values that you were hoping to convey in the event, because that really gives you something to evaluate the success of your event against. And the reason why that is important is because the number one thing with almost all marketing is that you have a quality product. And the best way to know if your product is quality is to evaluate it against what it was meant to do. So you've got your aims, you've got your values set, evaluate, see if you achieved everything you set out to achieve. If you didn't, then you know there might be some room to improve your product for next time. If you did achieve all of the aims that you set out to, then that's absolutely fantastic, because you've got an opportunity to shout about that.
Yeah.
Tell everyone in the same way that you selected your channels to get people to come to the event. Tell them after the event how wonderfully everything went. If everything went great, say that.
Yeah.
But remember, be authentic. So if some things didn't go to plan, you could talk about those as well, and you could talk about how you are going to fix those issues for the future if you feel that is appropriate to do.
Yeah.
So let's assume we're going best case scenario, everything went fantastically, or say 80% there.
Yeah.
So the people that came to the event, the attendees, the best thing we can do at this point is to get their opinions.
Yeah.
So if you can record those on video. If you can't record them on video, then you can just take a testimonial from them, write it down, sort of thing, and then you've got something there that says everything that they experienced in that event. Tell the story.
Yes.
What people want to know most is the story behind the event, but the story of the people that went, what they got from it, their hopes and dreams they had going into it. Were those fulfilled? How do they feel now the event is over? All of that can be used to express the reasons why people should come to the event in the future. People love hearing stories. They love hearing stories that are authentic.
Yeah.
If you have someone that went to the event telling you that it was that they managed to feel like they were welcomed into a new community, for an example, someone might then look at that in a year's time when your next event's coming around and think, I want that.
Yes.
I want that experience.
It's almost creating a FOMO, the fear of missing out. And that's how we want people to feel about coming on an event that I want to be there.
And we want them to know what they're going to get.
Yeah.
And if that's an authentic story, they know that's what they're going to experience. That's what they're going to get. And once you've created that, you can use it for a long time. And it's not like you film a testimonial and then use it once. That might be used multiple times throughout the year in the run up to the next event. You might use it a couple of years' time to promote another event that's coming up in the future. To ensure that this is the most budget-friendly way of doing things, you should never create one piece of content that only has one use.
Yeah.
So if you're going to film a testimonial, take a transcript of it as well. And then you could take out key quotes, and you could share the key quotes on social media, or you could have them as headlines for emails. You might have a blog which has the written transcript as well as having the video. So whatever you create, it can be repackaged, reused, and it can be used multiple times. Yeah,
no, definitely. And I think there's a fantastic example of creating an event legacy with a group that users at the Hayes Conference Centre, Elim Limitless. They had a fabulous event with us where they brought 200 youth leaders together, and they just took snippets from their event, just little video snippets of things that was going on, workshops, just really authentic. And then they just, to promote their next event, they just sort of merged that video together and just show this beautiful video of everybody just having the best time. And you just watch the video thinking, I want to be there, I want to be at that event. And I think we have got that video to share with you today, so we will share that video with you as well.
Hello and welcome to the Hayes Conference Centre.
So, Steve, we've got a few questions for you from today's attendees. So the first question is, if we don't currently use social media for an event, where would you start with that? It's probably a bit of a broad question.
That is a broad question. So I'm going to answer this assuming that this organizer has a social media presence to begin with. So, social media for an event. So there's a few tips and things that you can do. So I think I already mentioned doing like a social media takeover when you have your attendees take over your social media for a day. But something which is nice and simple and straightforward is to have an event hashtag. So hashtag event name 2024 could be something as simple as that, and don't restrict that to just one social media channel. So a thing that some you sometimes see is saying, oh, use this hashtag on Twitter, but your hashtags work on Facebook as well, they work on LinkedIn. So hashtag, just may say use this on social media. Reiterate that across presentation slides, across print collateral, all sorts of things that you hand out. But this is often where people stop. Don't stop there. You have to tell people what they're meant to do.
Yes.
So early on, maybe the very first session that you run at the event, you could have the first thing that comes up on the screen could explain what the hashtag is and what you want people to use it for.
Yeah.
Now, people will use it and they might kind of stop using it. So you have to keep it up.
Yeah.
And one way that I find works fantastically for this is you can ask people in a session, say you've got someone delivering an hour workshop or an hour talk, you can say at the very beginning, ask us your questions using this hashtag, and then have someone come up at the end and read out a few questions that got sent on social media that way. It will encourage people to use it, and it encourages people to get used to using it, but also anyone that isn't at the event will have a little insight into what's going on.
Definitely.
And it provides, again, I'm going to use the word, it provides that authentic voice because it's messages coming from people at the event.
And I think that feeds through all of the values and the sort of the 4 tips was talking about, really, that customer engagement and getting people sort of excited and involved in the conference and hearing their voice, I think is a big thing. So the next question I've got for you is, if I've got a bigger budget to spend on event marketing, where would you say would be the best use of this money?
It's this is a question that people so often ask themselves: is, might have a bit of money to spend, but we don't know where to start. Usually, the first place people would start is with what they aren't comfortable doing themselves, and it probably is a good place to start, to be honest.
Yeah.
So if you have a bit more of a budget but you're not comfortable taking photographs, and photographs, say, are very key to you for your event and to your event promotion, then use that money to hire a photographer, for example. If you aren't comfortable pulling together a full marketing strategy, then you might want to get a strategist like myself to come in and to help create a marketing plan for an event so that you know exactly what you're doing and where. But as I said earlier on, a lot of things that cost money are time.
Yes.
So it's working out what you are comfortable spending your own time doing and what you need support to do. And I would say that is where you should first consider to spend money. Yeah.
No, that's a brilliant answer. Thank you, Steve. And what trends are you seeing in event marketing? And what do you foresee the future trends to be?
So, if we were talking in 2020, then I think all of the trends that would be presented would be, we're seeing more online, hybrid events.
Yes.
We're seeing, and that's going to be here to stay. But in my experience with working with event organisers, that was almost one of the first things to go.
100%.
It's fascinating. 3 years ago, we'd be saying everything should go digital and will stay digital, but actually, all these events have moved back to pure face-to-face, and hybrid has kind of just gone out.
Yeah.
We're having pure face-to-face. So that is one of the biggest trends we're seeing in marketing the event, is we are now marketing the physical event again, which is very interesting. Marketing broadly, one of the interesting trends we're seeing is resurgence in print, which again, 3 years ago 4 years
Yeah.
ago, if we were talking about this, we'd be saying, "Oh, everything going online, digital, digital, digital." But the fact is that a lot of digital channels are becoming less and less effective. There's a lot of noise. There's a lot of content out there. And one of the ways to cut through that is to use something like print. So, for example, you might send an email out, you might have an email list of people who you want to communicate with, you might send something to them, and you'll get back an open rate that might say 8% of people who I sent this to actually ended up opening this.
Yeah.
Now, print is a little bit more difficult to prove, but we all know that when an envelope comes through our front door and you're not sure who it's from, you're probably going to open it. So the print open rates are probably going to end up being higher than an email open rate. Now, email is easy, and that's why a lot of people tend to go, right, we'll do email because that's easy. We can send 80 of these a week and we'll be fine. But is it more effective than print? I think we're starting to see a question of that. So I think we will see a resurgence of print coming in. So consider bringing that into your marketing mix for event marketing.
Definitely, and I could not agree stronger with what you've just said. We very much, coming out of the pandemic, heard again a lot of the hybrid situation of people thinking, oh, shall we try hybrid events? But from all the feedback and the comments that we get and seeing daily, the groups that come in and have that face-to-face and the value that they get from that in-person event, 100% agree with you that there's nothing better than a face-to-face event that you can be there and be together and have that time. So it's valuable, so valuable that we see it daily here at Christian Conference Trust. So thank you so much for answering those questions.
Thank you for having me.
That's okay.